In this video, we'll talk about the zip function and specifically talk about why your data disappears and how to get it back. So if you've ever used the zip function to combine two lists in Python and wondered where your data went, let's see how zip works, why it disappears after you use it, and how to get it back. So we'll start with two lists, names and scores. Now what we want to do is we want to create a combined, so that's a variable that's going to hold the result of calling the function zip and passing in two arguments, names and scores. So let's have a look at the names list. It's got three names, test1, test2, and test3. And for the scores, we've also got three scores. And so what we want to do is we want to use the zip function, passing in both lists, names and scores. And what it does is it will pair each name with its matching score, but it doesn't return a list. Rather, it returns a zip object, and that's going to be stored into a variable called combined. Now that object, that zip object that is returned and we've stored it into the variable combined is basically an iterator that produces the pairs one at a time. Let's kind of take some sort of a summary or sort of a reminder of what an iterator is. So basically an iterator is an object in Python that produces a sequence of values one at a time and remembers where it left off so it can continue when you ask for the next value. So here what we've done is we've called the zip function, passing in names and scores, and that's going to return a zip object in the variable that we've called combined. Let's have a look at what else we can do. Now, to see what's inside the returned zip object, we convert it to a list using the list function. So here we've called the list function, we pass in the returned combined zip object, which again is an iterator that produces the pairs one at a time. And we've stored the results, which is a returned list, into a variable called pairs. So this shows the pairs as a list of tuples, but it also consumes the iterator. Once an iterator is consumed, it's empty and it can't be reused unless we recreate it. So here, when we printed pairs, it's pretty much going to print a list of tuples just like this. So pairing the first name with the first score, the second name in the list with the second value in the scores list, and the third value in the names list, with pairing that with the third score. So if I run that, that should give us pretty much this part here. So as you can see here, that's what we get, a list of tuples, pairing the first value of the first list with the first value of the second list, and so on. Right, so since we consumed it, we need to, so we did consume the zip object, the iterator. So next, if we consumed it, then we need to recreate the zip object to use it again. So we call the zip again, passing in the two lists as two arguments, names and scores, and storing the results back into the variable combined. So basically, we've just overridden whatever it was referring to in the first place. Okay, so what else can we do? We can also loop over the combined results directly. So here for name and score, in combined, print each pair in a nice sentence. So first we print name, scored, so, and then basically the score. But so that's the results here. So we say test 1 scored 85, test 2 scored 90, and test 3 scored 78. So each one is paired with the value from each of the lists. But again, looping over also consumes the iterator. So we again need to recreate it every time we need to use the combined list. So in step 5, let's create it one more time so we can see what happens when we print the zip object itself without converting or looping. Okay, so if we wanted to print it directly just like this instead of converting it or returning it as a list, or the same way we did here, we just looped over it. But what happens if we try to print it directly just like that? So here we recreated the combined list one more time, calling zip and both lists and returning the zipped object as in combined. And then we try to print combined like this. So that's going to give us this output, the zip object at and some sort of memory address. So you'll just see something like this, basically, which we can see here. That value is going to be different on your machine, but it's basically a memory address. And it's not the actual pairs. But so that's why you wanted to either iterate through it or convert it to a list. So like we did in step 3 and 4. In step 2, we converted it to the list to see what's inside of our returned zip object. And in step 4, we iterated through it. Now in step 6, now we'll loop over this zip object and it prints all the pairs. So basically we're just printing the pairs and now it's printed out like this. So in the previous, in step 4, we iterated just like printing each pair in a nice sentence. So we wanted to separate name and add some words. But in step 6, basically we just printed out the pairs like this. Now, if we try to loop in step 7, if we try to loop over the same zip object again, nothing prints. And you can see here, nothing is printed out here. That's where we are. And this is the key thing to remember. Iterators are consumable. Okay, I don't know what happened with my mouse, but once you use them, they are empty unless you create them again. So over here, you can see that nothing prints. We can see this is the last thing that was printed from step 6. So the fix is how to get it back. You just need to recreate it. And it disappears because it's an iterator, is an object that is consumable. So consumable means once you use them, they're empty unless you create them again. So let's have a quick recap in step 8. Zip pairs elements from 2 or more sequences into tuples. So you can see these are tuples. And it returns an iterator, not a list. But then in step 2, we converted it into a list here. But initially they're not really a list. And iterators are consumed after one complete pass. And that's what we saw what happened in step 7. To reuse, recreate the zip object or convert it to a list. So you should still be able to call this one again. Say somewhere here, print. So we can see that because I've converted it into a list, I'm able to sort of re-access it. But however, if I wanted to use it directly, then I need to recreate it in the same way that we did in each step we consumed it. So remember, we recreated it here and again here, and of course the first time as well here. So that's pretty much it. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.